Now, the state of some swimming pools in eThekwini leaves a lot to be desired, with residents complaining that some have started developing fungi. Opposition parties have also slammed eThekwini municipality for the deplorable state of the pool, saying it's a contrast with the city's claim that it seeks to support the local tourism industry in efforts to revive the local economy. Our reporter Nkosikhona Duma joins us live from the Durban Beach front to give us more expansion. Some very important concerns here that have been raised in Nkosikhona about wanting to achieve reviving the economy on one end, but lagging behind on the other end. What's happening?
Indeed, that is absolutely correct, Paul. And for this kind of story, it's always best to allow the images to speak for themselves. And therefore, I should step out of camera so that my colleague Philani Zuma will show you the state of the Durban swimming pools. These swimming pools have been here for years. I remember growing up in the city, we used to marvel at them. In fact, we used to enjoy, great summer holiday seasons here. And now they've been turned into this particular state. Well, opposition parties have largely blamed the eThekwini municipality for what they call poor maintenance. The city, for its part here, fortunately, we now have the municipal spokesperson, Mr. Msawakhe Mayisela. I'm just going to walk to him to actually try and understand why we now are at this particular situation. Mr. Mayisela, the municipality of eThekwini is saying it wants to revive the local economy through tourism, but surely you cannot expect tourists to come to scenes like this. Why have the pools been left to this kind of devastating state?
Yeah, look, I think it would be very remiss of me not to apologize profusely to the members of the public, but also to the tourists that happen to make eThekwini their home away from home during this period. But look, I need to state it categorically that there's absolutely no joy that we are deriving from these pools for not working. We're a city that regard tourism as gold, and obviously under no circumstances shall we actually take chances when it comes to tourism. But I think we need to be honest. I mean, we have come from a very difficult period of the hard lockdown, which to a larger extent impacted negatively to our supply chain processes. I think you'll also recall that eThekwini is the epicenter of the pandemic. We account for a substantial number of people who live in KwaZulu-Natal. During the hard lockdown of COVID-19, we're compelled to actually reprioritize our program. I mean, if you look at the money that we have spent in light of the budget cuts in this sphere of government, it's a lot of money. Unfortunately, certain programs had to be compromised. But I'm very happy to announce that indeed there is an amount of money that has been sourced to, which is capital budget to the tune of about 200 million. That is going to assist us to ensure that these pools are back on track. We also have managed to source in excess of 20 million, which is going to be an operational budget. So we need to bear that in mind. I mean, if you go back and you see you remember the shelters that we have built here in eThekwini, where we're compelled by circumstances that we have to feed those people that were in those shelters. We spend a lot of money, but I'm very happy now that there is some progress that is happening. But also, you need to bear in mind that during that period, our supply chain processes were hampered substantially. I mean, you had instances where we were on the brink of fixing certain things in this pool. Like, for example, here we've got a problem of the filtration system. When you're about to award those contracts, there are appeals and so forth. I mean, you have to allow those to run their course. But the most important thing is not that we're simply just folding our arms and not doing anything. And it is not correct that all the pools in eThekwini are not functioning. We've got in excess of 50 pools in eThekwini, and close to 50 are fully operational. But like I'm saying, if you look at the background that I've given to you, like any other city, we're compelled by circumstances not to function normally. But I'm glad that now, under the leadership of our Mayor, Councillor Nkosikhona Duma, we have reprioritized this, because at the end of the day, we need to ensure that anyone that comes to eThekwini, we are able to meet their needs.
Mr. Mayisela, my guess is that many people will come and say you are now practicing what is called spin doctoring, using, of course, COVID-19 as a convenient excuse. But the question I want to ask is what the city has previously said. You are saying to people, come to Durban, it is the warmest place to be. You want the city to be a world-class city, but filth characterizes the city. If you go into a local CBD, you'll see that at a 4 road is now a 2-lane road because of the taxi industry. The state of the beachfront is a shadow of his former self, really. Why then are you misleading the public, saying they must come here when you know that this is a state of the swimming pools?
No, look, like I've said earlier on, Nkosikhona, we are operating under very abnormal circumstances. It's a fact that COVID-19 was here. The hard lockdown has impacted on our day-to-day operations. But we should be grateful. Now that we're on level 1, things are coming back to normal. Same thing applies to day-to-day operations of the municipality, because at the end of the day, we need to adhere to the protocols that governs our supply chain processes. Our failure to do that is going to pit us against the Auditor General. You have also raised the issue of the inner city. In the inner city, I agree with you that we do have challenges in terms of, litter and many other things related to that. But you yourself, you know very well that we have got a program of action in the form of Operation Good Hope that seeks to rejuvenate the inner city of eThekwini, because we are of an opinion that the inner city is the heartbeat of eThekwini. We fully understand the challenges that we are experiencing, but also we must take into account that the issue of the inner city to be revived requires that all of us, all stakeholders, including yourself, you need to know that where must you dispose of litter, where must you go in the event that the nature calls. You cannot simply just go anywhere. So it is the responsibility of all of us, the city, our stakeholders, yourself, you yourself as the media, to assist us to educate or join us in our educational program to change the mindset of anyone that comes to eThekwini. Otherwise, it will continue to be a moving target. But we're making a huge progress. I mean, if you go to the inner city right now, you have seen the operations of Metro Police dealing with the people that are not adhering to our bylaws. I mean, that is a step in the right direction. It may not be achieved overnight, but at least we are doing something. And we are very optimistic that indeed, very soon it is going to yield handsome dividends, provided we all work together as stakeholders.
Mr. Mayisela, you say that the hard lockdown hits you very hard and therefore you have to reprioritize some funds. But I put it to you that we have an entire department called Parks and Recreation. Their task essentially is, of course, to maintain swimming pools, is to maintain our parks, is to ensure that, grass is cut in certain areas of the municipality. What were they doing then during the hard lockdown? Because the question that I will put to you is that, well, are you then suggesting all of their budgets was taken away? What exactly it is that they were doing, and what have they been doing ahead of the festive season, particularly when it peaked? Because these particular pools were not being used by tourists who came here in their numbers, expecting to enjoy the city at its fullest following your advertising.
No, you're quite correct. But like I've indicated or pointed out to you earlier on, that to a certain extent this is the legacy of the abnormal situation that engulfed the whole country. In that, I mean, you cannot expect that hardly 1 year back will actually be back to normal. I've indicated to you that we had to reprioritize, because had we not done so, you will come back to me and confront me with quite a number of questions. I told you that we are the epicenter of the pandemic, and even during that period, I mean, we were accounting for a substantial number of people that were living in the streets. So you can just imagine the amount of money that had to be sourced from other programs to cater for that period. But now the most important thing is that we are doing something to ensure that the situation returns to normal. And obviously, you have seen for yourself at the beginning of the summer holidays, in as much as these pools were not working. But there are quite a lot of things that were positive that we have done, more especially at the beachfront. Though that is actually reflected to some of the social tweets, to some of the social media posts that we have seen, commending the city. But there are instances whereby other people have expressed their dissatisfaction. That on its own is building us. So we are doing everything in our power, but we have to partner with every stakeholder to ensure that whatever that is plaguing our city is nipped to the bud. But also we have raised the issue of the grass cutting. I mean, you've seen the heavy rains that have been, bucketing down in eThekwini and everything, which to a larger extent also impacted on our cutting cycle. Right now, I mean, the contractors are out on the ground cutting the grass. The grass is overgrown in a manner that is very, abnormal because of the heavy rains. It's not that we're not doing anything about it. I mean, the contractors are out there to ensure that grass is cut. So we're doing everything in our power to ensure that our city remains the tourist mecca, and it will continue to do so.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Msawakhe Mayisela. As we wrap this, I really want to just walk around to show you the vicinity of this particular area. As Mr. Msawakhe Mayisela was talking there, it was quite interesting that he did not touch on the capacity and actual work of the municipality. He simply, cited issues like COVID-19, like heavy rains that recently struck, and therefore they've been not able to cut grass because it is apparently now growing at an abnormal rate. Those are the words he used, the word abnormal. But as we look at this particular part here, you reflect on the state of South Africa's metros and big cities and their current states, and eThekwini is unfortunately seemingly one of those sad stories that are occurring right now.
Let's, of course, leave it there for now. Nkosikhona Duma asking some rather tough questions there, and, of course, looking at the state of the swimming pools in the eThekwini area.